Okay, let's unpack this. We grow up hearing, all vegetables are universally good for you. Eat your greens, fill your plate. It's basically Health 101.
Right. Standard advice.
But imagine discovering that for a specific group, people over 60-50, some of these perfectly healthy foods might actually be doing more harm than good, especially when they mix with common medications.
Yeah, it sounds completely counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Exactly. And that's the surprising idea we're really digging into today, pulling insights directly from some interesting source material, including points from a heart doctor. So our mission here in this deep dive is to quickly get you informed about this whole nuance. We're going to explore why certain vegetables, according to this material, can pose risks for the aging heart. What those specific risks are, and importantly, what safer, heart-friendly alternatives are recommended. Really about getting the essential knowledge, distilled for you.
And this really is such a critical conversation, especially for listeners over, say, 60. The sources we've looked at really emphasize that our bodies change significantly as we age.
They really do.
Yeah, the way we process food, absorb nutrients, and especially how we interact with medications is just different than in our younger years.
Right.
So what might have been great before might need a second look now. This is why looking closely at common foods through this specific lens for heart health and medication interaction is so valuable. And we're drawing this straight from the material provided.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. The first vegetable the sources flag as potentially problematic for this age group: spinach.
Spinach.
Yep, good old spinach. It's got that health halo, doesn't it? A real superfood. But the material points to a specific risk for those over 60, particularly if you're on certain heart medications.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, or maybe concerning, is that the issue boils down to spinach's really high vitamin K content.
Okay. Vitamin K.
Now, vitamin K is vital, don't get me wrong. It plays a key role in blood clotting. But for someone taking anticoagulant medications, blood thinners like warfarin.
Very common, yeah.
Very common, often prescribed after heart attacks, strokes, or for things like atrial fibrillation. Well, too much vitamin K can directly interfere with how that drug works.
So wait, the medication is trying to prevent clots, and the spinach is kind of working against it, helping the blood clot?
Precisely. That's what the material explains. This interaction can basically make the blood thinner, less effective, or sometimes even cancel out its benefits altogether.
Wow.
It can cause the blood to become thicker, essentially removing that protective shield against dangerous blood clots that the medication is supposed to provide. And the tricky part is people often have no idea this is happening through their diet.
And the sources share these really striking anecdotes from the heart doctor, seeing patients who actually suffered strokes or dangerous clotting events simply because they started adding significant amounts of spinach, like daily spinach smoothies or these huge salads, without realizing the potential conflict with their warfarin.
It really underscores that even foods we think of as purely healthy can have, powerful pharmacological effects, almost like taking another medicine.
Yeah.
And it raises a really important point about consistency, which the material addresses. It's not that spinach is suddenly bad food.
Right.
But if you're on blood thinners, moderation and, crucially, consistency in your intake are key. If you eat a little bit regularly, that's usually okay and can be factored in.
Yeah.
It's the sudden big changes that cause problems.
Okay.
And more importantly, the sources strongly advise always discussing significant dietary changes with your doctor, especially if you're on medication. Because, as this shows, your food choices can profoundly impact how well your treatment works.
That makes perfect sense. Consistency and communication. Okay, so spinach, hidden interaction with meds. What's the next vegetable the sources warn us about? Something that feels like a totally innocent snack.
That would be pickled cucumbers. Or, just pickles.
Pickles.
Yeah. They're tangy, crunchy, common side dish or snack. Seem completely harmless, right?
They really do. What could be wrong? Just cucumbers and brine. Vinegar.
But the problem highlighted in the material is that they're absolutely loaded with sodium from that brine.
Oh, right. Salt.
A lot of salt. The sources give a specific detail. Sometimes just one serving can pack over 1,000 milligrams of sodium.
1,000 in like a few spears.
Yeah, it's staggering. And for someone over 60, that single serving can represent 2/3, maybe even more, of their entire recommended daily salt limit.
Wow. That's huge.
It's a massive amount.
Yeah.
And the material really breaks down why this is particularly problematic for the aging heart. Sodium makes your body hold on to water. which increases the volume of blood pumping through your system. This puts tremendous extra pressure on your heart and your blood vessels.
Okay.
And over time, this constant pressure leads straight to high blood pressure, makes arteries stiffer, and significantly bumps up the risk for heart failure.
And I guess that effect is maybe worse for older adults?
Exactly. If we connect this back to the over 60 group, their kidneys are often just less efficient at filtering out excess salt. So that sodium load sticks around longer, making the problem even worse.
And the anecdote here from the sources was about patients who were just baffled, right?
Yeah.
Their blood pressure stayed stubbornly high, even though they thought they were eating really healthy.
Yeah, doing all the right things otherwise.
And they never suspected the pickles they ate regularly were the hidden culprit. The sources really emphasize that salt damage often works silently. There aren't always obvious warning signs until something serious happens, like a stroke or a sudden diagnosis of heart failure.
Exactly. The danger is in that quiet, cumulative pressure. So the material suggests focusing on controlling salt intake proactively.
How?
Well, mainly by cooking at home more often. That way you control exactly how much salt goes in.
Right.
And reading labels meticulously. Because salt hides in so many unexpected places. Canned vegetables, soups, sauces, breads.
Even things that don't taste salty sometimes.
Absolutely. And focusing on flavoring foods differently. Using herbs, spices, maybe a squeeze of lemon or lime, instead of just reaching for the salt shaker or relying on salty processed items like many pickles. It's about taking back control over that hidden enemy.
That shift in focus, hunting for hidden salt. That's really eye-opening. Okay, moving on. The third item the sources discuss: red chili peppers. Spice. It's so central to so many cuisines, comfort foods.
Oh, absolutely. Flavor, warmth.
But what's the potential risk the sources point out here for the aging heart?
Well, the warning about hot chili peppers centers on their stimulating effect on the nervous system. When you eat something really spicy, it triggers a release of adrenaline.
Like a fight or flight response.
Sort of, yeah. It increases your heart rate and it causes your blood vessels to constrict, to tighten up.
Okay.
Now, for someone over 60 whose arteries might already be a bit less elastic, more rigid, and whose heart might be more sensitive to stress, this added stimulation can actually be dangerous.
Dangerous how, specifically? What happens?
Well, that tightening of blood vessels leads to a sharp spike in blood pressure. And the sources note that frequent consumption of very hot peppers might even contribute to chronic inflammation within the vascular system over time.
That's not just that temporary feeling of heat and sweat, it's a deeper physiological thing.
Exactly. It's a real physiological stress response your body has to the capsaicin that's the compound making peppers hot. The doctor mentioned in the sources shares experiences. Older patients coming in reporting heart palpitations or episodes of chest tightness or these sudden significant blood pressure surges after eating really spicy meals.
And they probably didn't connect it to the peppers.
Often not, no. They didn't realize the chili was the trigger.
But it feels like taking away spice takes away so much flavor for so many people.
And the sources aren't suggesting food needs to be bland. Not at all. The advice is more that you don't necessarily need that extreme heat to create delicious, vibrant food. They recommend exploring milder flavorings. Things like herbs, rosemary, thyme, maybe using garlic, cooked garlic, as we'll get to, ginger, citrus juices. These all add complexity and depth without triggering that potentially dangerous cardiac stress response.
Right.
It's about finding comfort and flavor in ways that support rather than strain your heart as you get older.
Supporting versus straining. That's a really good way to think about it. Okay, number 4 on the list. This one's widely known for health benefits, but the warning applies specifically when it's eaten raw. Garlic.
Yes, garlic. Another case where how you prepare it really matters, especially for people over 60. The source material focuses its concern squarely on raw garlic.
Why raw? Isn't raw supposed to be more potent, more beneficial?
Well, potent is the key word. Raw garlic is a potent natural blood thinner.
Which is often why people eat it, right? Thinking it helps with blood pressure or circulation.
Exactly. And look, in moderation, especially when cooked, garlic absolutely has health benefits. But the sources explain that when you combine the strong natural blood thinning effect of raw garlic with prescription anticoagulant medications like warfarin again, or even just daily low-dose aspirin, it can dangerously amplify their effects. It essentially doubles down on the blood thinning.
Making the blood too thin.
Precisely. Which dramatically increases the risk of internal bleeding, easy bruising, nosebleeds that won't stop, and in serious cases, even life-threatening hemorrhages.
So it's really that combined effect with medication that's the critical issue here.
That's the primary concern, yes.
Right.
But the sources also point out another potential issue with raw garlic. It can cause a sudden, abrupt drop in blood pressure.
Oh, interesting.
For someone maybe already managing hypertension with medication, this rapid decrease can lead to dizziness, lightheadedness, fatigue, confusion, even fainting spells.
And that could be dangerous in itself, falling.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, particularly for the aging heart, sudden, significant drops in blood pressure can compromise blood flow to vital organs, including the heart muscle itself. That's where real damage can occur.
And the anecdotes you mentioned from the sources really highlight the confusion this causes. Patients experiencing unexplained persistent nosebleeds or noticing black stools, which is a sign of internal bleeding, or having sudden episodes of weakness or dizziness, all while they're diligently consuming raw garlic cloves, thinking they're doing something incredibly healthy.
The doctor's frustration, as described in the material, is seeing people inadvertently harming themselves while truly believing they're following a path to better health, trusting this traditional remedy.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing everything right.
It just strongly reinforces the point. Even natural foods are powerful chemical compounds, and how your body responds, especially after 60, changes significantly. So the recommendation from the sources is clear. Use garlic cooked and in moderation.
Cooked is okay then.
Cooked seems much safer regarding these specific issues. And they stress, absolutely talk to your doctor before you start taking raw garlic regularly as some kind of supplement or any other potent natural remedy, because of these potential interactions and effects on blood pressure and clotting.
It really drives home that message again about the specific nuances of how the aging body processes things differently. Okay, finally, the last vegetable the sources highlight. Another one that just looks incredibly fresh and healthy, but apparently can harbor a hidden enemy.
That would be raw sprouts.
Yeah.
Things like alfalfa sprouts, bean sprouts, mung bean sprouts.
Oh, yeah, you see them on salads, in sandwiches all the time. They look so vibrant and clean.
They do look appealingly green and fresh. But the primary concern highlighted in the material isn't the sprout itself, nutritionally, but its growing conditions.
Okay.
Sprouts are typically grown in warm, moist environments. And unfortunately, those are also the ideal breeding grounds for dangerous bacteria, things like E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria.
Right. I've definitely heard about food safety issues with sprouts over the years. But how does that connect specifically to the heart health concerns for seniors?
Well, if we bring it back to the context of individuals over 60, their immune systems are generally just not as robust as they were in younger years. They don't fight off infections as effectively.
Okay.
So this means that exposure to these bacteria, even a small amount, carries a much, much higher risk of severe complications from what might otherwise be a mild foodborne illness.
What kind of complications?
What might just cause a few uncomfortable days for a younger person could escalate into really life-threatening conditions for an older adult. Things like sepsis, a bloodstream infection, or severe dehydration, which puts immense strain on the whole cardiovascular system.
Wow.
Or even endocarditis, which is a dangerous infection of the actual lining of the heart.
That's terrifying. Far more serious than just a typical stomach bug.
Exactly. The sources include some quite vivid anecdotes, unfortunately, of cases where seemingly minor contamination from raw sprouts led to hospitalizations, triggered acute episodes of irregular heart rhythms like atrial fibrillation, or significantly worsened pre-existing conditions like congestive heart failure in older patients.
And the irony, as the material points out.
Yeah, the irony is huge. People are often trying to make a really clean, healthy choice by adding sprouts, only to be seriously harmed by the food itself because their body's defense systems just aren't as strong as they used to be.
So what's the advice then? Avoid sprouts completely.
Not necessarily avoid them entirely, but definitely avoid them raw. The clear advice from the sources is that raw sprouts should never be considered a low-risk food for people over 60.
Okay.
If you enjoy sprouts, the recommendation is simple. Cook them first. A quick sauté in a pan or steaming them for a minute or two is generally enough to kill off most of those harmful bacteria while still retaining a lot of the nutritional value.
So cooking makes them safe.
Much, much safer, yes. The sources really emphasize that for seniors, it's not just about what nutrients are in the food, but also how safe it is to consume in the way it's prepared. And crucially, how your body's current immune system can handle it, not how you handled it when you were, say, 40.
That distinction about the aging body's response immune system, medication interactions, organ efficiency, it's just absolutely crucial across all these examples, isn't it?
It really is the connecting thread.
Okay, so we've covered 5 seemingly healthy vegetables that the sources flag with specific cautions for those over 60, explaining the why behind each one. But thankfully, the material doesn't just leave us with warnings, it pivots to a much more positive perspective. What should seniors focus on eating to actively support their heart health?
Exactly. It's not all doom and gloom. The sources shift nicely to recommending whole, real vegetables that are known to actively support the aging cardiovascular system. These are foods highlighted specifically for their ability to, say, reduce inflammation, help balance blood pressure, nourish blood vessels, and generally work with the body in any necessary medications, not against them.
That sounds much better. What are some of the specific examples recommended in the material?
Well, the sources specifically mention things like steamed broccoli, gently roasted carrots, sautéed kale. Notice the cooking methods. Cooked sweet potatoes, cooked tomatoes, lycopene becomes more available when cooked, and also heart-healthy legumes like lentils and green beans as really excellent choices.
Okay, and can you expand just a bit on why these are particularly beneficial according to the sources? What makes them stand out?
Certainly. The material explains that these foods are generally rich in essential nutrients, like antioxidants, which help combat that chronic inflammation we talked about with the chili peppers. Potassium, which is crucial because it directly helps to balance sodium levels in the body and manage blood pressure, a key contrast to the pickles.
Okay.
And fiber, which is great for stabilizing blood sugar and cholesterol levels, reducing the overall strain on the heart. They contain various plant compounds that actively protect the health of your arteries and support healthy circulation.
So they're actively helpful.
Yes, and unlike the potential risks with raw sprouts or the interactions from raw garlic or too much spinach with meds, these cooked or inherently lower-risk vegetables are described as being kind to the aging body. They're generally easy to digest. They provide steady nutritional support without introducing undue stress or conflicting with common medications. The sources really emphasize that the aging heart benefits most from consistency, balance, and foods that truly nourish and protect it. Foods that love you back, as one source put it.
I like that, foods that love you back. So it's about actively choosing foods that provide that specific support the body needs at this stage?
Precisely. And importantly, the sources reiterate that you don't need bland food to do this. Using wonderful herbs like rosemary or turmeric with its anti-inflammatory properties, using cooked garlic in moderation, a squeeze of fresh lemon. These are all highlighted as great ways to add flavor and complexity without the risks associated with, say, high salt or excessive heat. It's about making smart, delicious choices that actively support your cardiac health.
That really ties the whole message together beautifully, understanding the potential pitfalls, but then leaning into the foods that actively help. And the sources wrap up, as you said, with a really powerful message about consistency and also about hope.
They do. It's quite positive at the end.
Okay, let's bring this deep dive to a close then. I think the core message we've distilled from all this source material is pretty clear and actually quite empowering. Aging isn't about just accepting decline or having to give everything up.
Not at all.
It's really about gaining wisdom and understanding. It's about learning how your body responds to specific foods and medications now, in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Realizing that what worked just fine, what was easy in your younger years, might need some thoughtful adjustment today.
And the sources offer a genuinely hopeful perspective on this. The message really is, it is absolutely not too late. Damage isn't necessarily final or irreversible. Every small, consistent change you choose to make today, like being more mindful about that raw spinach if you're on thinners, or swapping salty pickles for fresher vegetables, choosing cooked sprouts instead of raw, embracing these nutrient-dense, heart-kind foods we just discussed. Each one of those small steps can genuinely begin to reverse years of silent strain on your cardiovascular system.
That's powerful.
It really is. It's about paying attention, making informed choices one meal at a time, and understanding that consistency in these small right choices is far more impactful in the long run than striving for some kind of occasional stressful perfection.
That is a powerful and very actionable thought to leave everyone with. So consider this. Based on everything we've unpacked from the sources today, How does understanding the specific, sometimes subtle, nuanced interactions of seemingly simple foods, especially in light of how your body changes after 60 and any medications you might be taking, how does that understanding become a really profound act of self-care for your heart? What one small informed change could you perhaps make today based on these insights? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into these crucial sources.